Hi everyone and welcome back to another episode of Charting from Blank. This week's episode is going to be on KAITO, episode 36. If you don't know how these work, we tend to take a completely blank sheet. It tends to be a coin that someone has requested to me, or a coin that is currently in the spotlight from a lot of traders. This week it is KAITO since it's a fairly new coin. People are liking the new shiny coins at the moment. Fairly new listing, had the airdrop back in February, and then they just had a small news that the team were doing buybacks, which as of right now we can see hasn't given the best reaction. So yeah, if you have not seen one of these episodes before, then we start with a completely blank sheet and work our way down from the higher time frame to the lower time frame until we find a repeated level of interest, trying to keep the video under 10 minutes, trying to keep it as simple and efficient as possible, and hopefully by the end of it we have a outlook for the rest of the week or the month for that coin. Last week's episode on IP went down really well, catching a 15 to 20% move on IP from the plan given in the Charting from Blank episode. So as a newer listing, it's no surprise that we do not have that much to work with on the higher time frame. The monthly is not offering too much. Going on to the weekly, potentially say we have some sort of weekly support here at 157, but nothing is certain really. All we have is where price closed back in February, the first week of February, and then it held as support then, and we've also retested it going into March. So yeah, not too much to offer on the higher time frame. What we do have though is this wick on the weekly. A lot of the time when you do see newer listing coins open the week and following that continue to hold above that initial weekly high or initial weekly low, basically just hold above this body of the candle, then a lot of the time you can see price continue to leg up consistently towards backfilling that wick. A good example of this to quickly detour is bearer. The week proceeds to build up and up since the listing. A lot of the time if you flip a good level of resistance, you'll see price accelerate higher to backfill that wick. So if we go back to KAITO, depending on how this week closes, then we could be looking at a similar situation as we just go to backfill the wick up towards $3. So that's worth keeping an eye on. So going on to the daily, I think things get a little bit more interesting now and we have a time frame we can actually work with. We can clearly see the daily is in some sort of a downtrend right now. Despite the higher time frame being in basically an uptrend, the sort of internal structure is at a downtrend. We can see that price is making lower highs followed by lower lows, right? We put it on the line chart, we can probably see that this is capped by a downtrend. So the way I like to draw a trend, meme line, whatever you like to call it, I like to draw it to the bodies and then tend to match it up. I think the 4-hour meme line will be a bit clearer for us. Yeah, so we do have some support here from KAITO into 157 area. So that was that weekly support I spoke of. Also confluence there on the daily. I am charting on the Bybit perp pairing simply because I trade on Bybit. You should always try and chart on the respected exchange. Try not to deviate too much, especially at the moment with pretty low volumes. You see a lot of prices wick to different areas on different exchange charts. When setting limit orders, you want to make sure that you're setting limit orders in the right place. Looking at the right exchanges. You know, many times before I've set a limit order looking at a Binance chart when actually I should have set a limit order looking at the Bybit chart, and my limits have missed by cents, by like the tiniest minuscule percent, because I simply was charting on the wrong exchange. So as of right now, yeah, we are moving into this daily support area here. Prior resistance, I think, is pretty important for KAITO to continue to hold above here, if I'm honest. If we go back to what I was saying about holding above the initial opening body of that candle, I think if KAITO was to start closing under 157, you could potentially see it lock into a similar price action to what Hype done, just obviously on the much higher time frame. comparing all these charts together because it's very useful to go back and look at how other charts have performed since listing. But if we look at the KAITO weekly, basically ever since we lost that support area, or the initial weekly open drive area that I've been talking about, you can see how it's just basically fizzled out and it's trading all the way back down to the listing low. So if we keep that in mind for KAITO, we can see that on the weekly, if we were to fizzle out back under here, then I wouldn't be surprised to go back down to sub $1, back towards the listing low area. So now we have a sort of point of interest. On the daily, a higher time frame point of interest we have to hold. Then I'm going to start looking for potential reversal triggers from this area. A lot of the time I don't enter blindly into the trade. I like to use reversal triggers, order flow, things like that to execute on that trade into a point of interest. So I use the higher time frame to find the point of interest, and then the lower time frame to execute on that trade. We're also going to mark this sort of daily support here, given it's kind of like an SR. I'm sure on the 4 hour it would be a bit clearer. Yeah, a bit clear, a bit more clear here that we have this sort of 4 hour level. So looking at the daily, we did the 4 hour, we did have a deviation under that daily region and rejected. I think 4 hour structure to me is looking slightly bearish right now. This 4 hour structure, especially if we can't hold 157, as I've been saying for KAITO, I think this could be a good short. Sometimes it's as easy as inversing the chart and maybe looking at playing a breakdown on something like KAITO. But it really depends on Bitcoin at the moment, and especially with the crypto summit tomorrow, you want to be focusing on Bitcoin's movements and what news is coming out, and basically taking entries on altcoins depending on Bitcoin's price action rather than what the altcoins are doing themselves, especially at the moment. What I do like is this price action though. I do really like this sort of baseline deviation and then potentially retesting here. I do think we are in the right area to start looking for a reversal for KAITO. Maybe it can break from this downtrend. I'm going to really need to see something shift before I try and blindly buy into something like this. I do think there's a chance of it putting in a reversal and maybe targeting back towards $2 at some point. But there'll be a few different things that I would like to see for this to play out. So let's get into them and see if we can find a trade to execute on. So now we have the point of interest and a rough idea of how the higher time frame looks. I want to look at the lower time frame and see if I can find a trade setup. So one thing I actually don't like is the lows down here. For me, these lows look pretty vulnerable. If KAITO went to sweep under these lows towards 145, I think this could offer a good opportunity on a reclaim to take a long and then target back towards $2. For me right now, there's not enough here to blindly long into this region. But I would look for a lower time frame trigger to get into this. Maybe using the EMAs, my EMA strat, that's a video on my channel. You can look at my channel. I have a strat talking about these, but as of right now, they're not reacting the way I would want them to. You can see the past two buy signals as a sign that these are potentially not working at the moment. There's no momentum on KAITO, which again can be a good signal. When you see the EMA strat not working, it doesn't work so much in a downtrend, but especially after price form two positive buy signals to then two weak buy signals, this is not a good sign. I have to say, I'm definitely trying to force a trade on KAITO here. I think the best play right now is probably to be patient on it. I'd watch for a sweep under 1.5 towards these lows and a reclaim. If it can sort of sweep, reclaim, we can look for the breakout into $2. And if we flip there, then probably accelerates back towards 2.9. The only other trade I would take right now was if we saw some nice structure shift on the lower time frame. Let's say we held into 157, we reclaimed 172. I think again you could look at taking a long and trying to play the breakout on KAITO. But as of right now, this is definitely in a bit of an awkward position, and these are the two plans I would look to take and potentially These are the two plans I would look to take right now. Option 1 would be a sweep under these lows. If KAITO swept under the lows at 1.5 and put in a reclaim above 1.57, then we can look at playing the breakout towards $2 equally. We'll play whatever trade comes first, which then brings me to option 2. If KAITO was not to sweep and if we were to reclaim 1.7, then we look at trading towards $2. So just to go over that again, option 1, we want to sweep the lows and reclaim 1.57. On a sweep and reclaim, we can look at taking a long to target $2. Option 2, wait for the breakout and a change of structure, and we can look at targeting $2. This is a good outlook for me. As of right now, I wouldn't want to long blindly. I do like this higher time frame point of interest for reversal on KAITO, but there's not enough for me given the daily structure and the momentum we are seeing to the downside on the 4 hours and on the EMAs. There's not enough for me to take a long just yet. Look for either one of these triggers, and then hopefully we can take a position following those. If you enjoyed this week's Starting from Blank, please check out the socials below, drop a like, and all my links to Discord, Twitter, everything is in the description. Any chart requests for next week, please send them through. Thanks everyone. Bye bye. See you next week.